The journey to fill Drake Powell's absence takes us today to Germany and Ivan Karchenkov. The problem, though, he ain't much of a presence from beyond the arc, and that's putting it kindly.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Cinco de Mayo. It's May 5th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch of the day to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and all the Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Welcome in. It's good to be together. Let's get after it. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's a great deal. Coming up on the show today as we get started with a new week, Coach Davis was given a grade after his first 4 years by CBS's Matt Norlander. Was he passing? Was he failing? Or was it just right down the middle? We'll get to that. We'll get to the weekend whiparound, where postseason action is afoot in many different Tar Heel sports. But as I said in the cold open, we want to start by continuing, that's now a word, continuing along with a new journey where we are looking to find who's going to replace Drake Powell. Last week on the show, I looked at the possibility that Carolina might be done and that person might be on the roster already. But as long as Carolina is continuing to talk to wings, to talk to small forwards, to talk to threes, I'm going to be under the assumption that they're still looking, because I'm just following the rabbit trail. I'm following the clues, right? And they lead us to say if Carolina is still talking to wings, they're still looking for wings. I'm not just talking like, hey, let's practice our recruiting pitch for next year. No, come on. What are we talking about? Of course, they're still looking. So we're going to keep talking about it. And so funny enough, on Friday's show, I mentioned I wanted to start today's show by talking about Kansas transfer, former Alabama player Rylan Griffin. Well, unfortunately, over the weekend, he committed to Texas A&M, so ain't much point in us talking about him because I'm not out here trying to practice my recruiting pitch talks. No, I think he would have been a great fit, good positional size. I think he would have a rebound from his year at Kansas back to what he did at Alabama, but he's gone, and so that's out the door. Unfortunately, one of the things that he best brings to the table, his three-point shooting, is something that the guy we're talking about today does not bring to the table, and that might be a deal breaker at the three. But we need to talk about him because Carolina is talking to him. And to that point, again, this is not, sometimes when we look at guys like this, it is I'll be very specific and say this is somebody that there's no report of Carolina talking to or connecting with, but somebody I would love for them to talk to because I think what they do would bring a lot to Carolina. Not so with this one. According to reporting from multiple sources, Carolina has held a Zoom call last week with Ivan Karchenkov, and so we need to look at that. Quick bio blast. He is 18 right now, turns 19 September 20th of this year. Kharchenkov is 6'6", 220 to 230, somewhere in that range. Woo, that's thick boy. He is Russian-born, currently plays in Germany for Bayern Munich. And just something I'll say right out of the gate that you need to be aware of. It's hard to look at his Bayern Munich stats right now and draw any big conclusions about what he would do, because you'll look at those stats and see 2-something points a game, less than, just not like the stats you look at is like, what? I would encourage you to not draw conclusions from those and be spooked off the trail. Why? Well, because it's just different in Europe than it is here. This is not him playing with a bunch of dudes his age. Playing at Bayern Munich, he's an 18-year-old playing with men. I mean, we're talking about guys in this backcourt with him like Carson Edwards that played at Purdue. Remember, he had some crazy games during the NCAA tournament. I think it was the year that Virginia won because Virginia beat them en route to that. Shabazz Napier, who led UConn to a championship, right? These are grown men in this backcourt with Kharchenkov. And so he's just getting spot minutes right now. And understandably so, probably wants to come to the States and show off. Now, there are no guarantees he's going to come to America and come to college. Yeah, I mean, there's, possibility with NBA draft, all of that kind of stuff. But again, Carolina's talking to him, so we're going to talk about him. Let me say a couple things I really, really like about Kharchenkov's game, and then we'll try to contextualize, like, what if he was playing against guys his age? What would happen? Something I really, really love. He attacks the rim hard and with reckless abandon. And you kind of think about it like, he is not this person I'm about to say. Don't hear me doing this. But when LeBron gets going and how just nobody has any desire to get in his way, or like a big stout running back, and everybody by the fourth quarter, everybody's like, dude, just go. I'm tired of trying to tackle you. Like, that's what happens with Kharchenkov. He gets going and he gets down the lane with his 6'6", 220, 230, and guys are moving. And if they're not moving, he is moving them because he can do what he wants with that body. So I like how hard he attacks in transition and can finish in transition, obviously in, through, or over traffic, whatever he needs to do. I also like that because of that positional size, he can win in the paint, right? You could invert it some. Remember how with Harrison Ingram a couple years ago, Carolina would often isolate him and just let him go to work? Think about that. That's something that could happen. But instead of at the 4, like it was with Harrison, this would be at the 3 with a 6'6" wing with all that great positional size with that 220, 230 that goes along with it. So there's all that. And that's another thing I want to point out that I like is just how thick he is. But like, not like, people worry about Luka. Like, I think that's basically why the Mavs traded him to the Lakers, or how Zion's body is breaking down. It ain't that. This dude is not like thick, like fat thick, like muscle thick. He's just brute, man. And it's really good. And not only is he thick, but he's used to play like statistically, he's negatively affected because of playing against grown men, but he is used to holding his own against them and doing that and not giving up ground. Like at 6'6", if he is the 230 that I've seen in places, that means that he is only 10 pounds lighter than what Armando Bacot was listed at 6'11", 240 2 years ago. And he's 5 inches shorter, but just thick and can move who he wants to. But then we have to come to the Kharchenkov is, I'm not going to say he's a bad 3-point shooter, because I think that it is coming eventually. But what I am saying is that his 3-point percentage currently and in recent years has been bad. Now, the question you have to figure out, and when I say bad, let me contextualize that, like sub 30%, like in the 20s. But the question you have to ask is, when he goes and plays against guys his age, if he did that and came to Chapel Hill or another school in the States, does that change things? I don't know. And we can't answer that for sure. But that very well could be a deal breaker, because this is your wing and a guy you need to hit and knock down a lot of shots. Now, thankfully, there's a lot of other stuff that Kharchenkov does really well. And so that's what you have to weigh out and gamble if you're Coach Davis and the recruiting staff, right? But we got to pose the question, what happens for Kharchenkov when he does play against guys his age? Let me take you back to last year and the knockout rounds of the 2024 FIBA U18 Eurobasket. So Kharchenkov playing for Germany against other 18-year-olds or younger, if they were playing up in a national, or I guess a continental event. I'll take you just to the knockout round specifically of this under 18 Eurobasket. First off, you need to know that his team won the whole blessed thing. And I'll just give you the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Quarterfinals, Germany beats Lithuania 87-86, a team that, by the way, had Kasparas Jakučionis, who starred for Illinois this past year. In that game, 21 points for Kharchenkov, 6 of 12 from the field, 3 of 7 from 2, 3 of 5 from 3, 6 of 10 from the free throw line, 5 boards, a steal, a block. And look, let's look at the glaring problem that day: 0 assists, 3 turnovers. That's not great. He made plays down the stretch of this game that they won by 1 point. Lithuania was up 6 with 3 minutes to go. He gets a 3. He's fouled, hits that, makes it 81-82. His team ends up going up 87-86. He gets a block in the lane with 4 seconds to go to work. It helps sealing this game. Just doing a lot of stuff there. Semifinals, Germany slaughtered Slovenia 88-66, I think, or 86-66, something like that. He had 16 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 5 of 7 from 2, 1 of 7 from 3. Not good. 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 7 assists in that game. Did have 4 turnovers and 3 steals. Then let's go to the championship game, where Germany wins it, beating Serbia by 10. And our guy, Ivan Karchenkov, has a near triple-double in the championship game of this thing. 18 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 6 of 8 from 2, 1 of 6 from 3, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 10 boards, 8 assists to just 2 turnovers. So 2 assists shy of a triple-double, a steal. For the tournament, he averaged 17.5 points, 5.3 boards, and 3.8 assists. So you see what I'm saying? Like, now that's what you're getting when he's playing against dudes his age. The question is the three-pointer or lack thereof a big enough of a deal breaker that it outweighs all the other great stuff that Kharchenkov does? I would say not enough that you don't try everything you can to bring him to Chapel Hill, but it is a big concern for me, certainly, because I need a wing who can knock down shots. But again, with all of that he's doing, I'm encouraged by that. Yes, his three-point shooting was bad, but in those 3 games, the quarter semi, he was 11, 12, 13, 14 of 22 from 2. That's really impressive. So, I don't know. There's that. And so for Bayern Munich, he just plays not much a game, but on Sunday, he had his best game of the year, like literally yesterday. 17 points, 5 boards, 4 steals in 22 minutes. He was 7 of 9 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 of 6 at the free throw line. Got to work on that. But scored. I wrote down all 7 of his buckets. I won't list them off, but in a vast variety of ways. Dunks in transition, in the paint, threes, all that. Like, I could go nitty gritty on it with you, but just trust me when I say, like, his bag is deep. It's got to be for doing what he's doing. So with all of this, it's hard for me to make a proper evaluation of Ivan Karchenkov. Again, the big question that you have to answer, this is the bottom line. Do the other pieces of his game overcome the lack of efficiency or the weakness of the three-point shooting as it stands right now? If you think it does, get him over here. Do everything you can. Or even if you think that his three-point shooting will come along. But if you think that because of what you need, if you're Jim Tanner, the GM, and that is strictly three-point shooting and you don't care about anything else, then this isn't your guy. I'm really curious to think. Now, again, the bottom line for me, I am prone to thinking that his three-point shooting will mature and that it will be better against guys his age and that he will be working with a great staff that can help him with that. And along with that, he'll be continued to be effective in all the other ways that he is. So I say, go after Ivan Karchenkov. Let's see what he could be at the 3 for Carolina. All right. Well, speaking of getting players or not getting players, Coach Davis has received a grade from CBS Sports' Matt Norlander on his first 4 years. And as you would imagine, it's been pretty topsy-turvy, and that might lead you to think what the grade is. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing or HVAC or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is jam-packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? No problem. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros who are looking for that extra edge, well, Supply House has a free Trade Master program that offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of this. And now it's your turn. Get in on it. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Check it all out at supplyhouse.com. Matt Norlander is one of the main college basketball voices for CBS Sports. We had him on the show, about a month and a half ago at this point, and did a great job. I mean, I love Matt Norlander. Follow him and listen to his podcast and stuff. I think he does a great job with Gary Parrish. But one of the things that he does, he writes a column every offseason looking back 4 years and grading all the coaching hires that were made 4 off seasons ago. So in this case, it would be in the 2021 offseason ahead of the 2021-22 year, which means it's time to grade Hubert Davis. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the grade right out of the gate, and then I want to read in full the caption, or the capsule, I guess I should say, that Norlander wrote up for Coach Davis. The grade, why don't you guess? C+ is what he gave. I hope I gave you an accurate and adequate enough pause there. I would have guessed the grade would have been a just dead on C, no plus or minus, just because it's been so far reaching. Let me read you the capsule. He says, quote, "The Tar Heels have been a little bit of everything in Davis's 4 seasons." I'm going to, by the way, interrupt with my own commentary as I go because I think that's fun. The Tar Heels have been a little bit of everything in Davis' 4 seasons. Yeah, you can say that again, Matt. It has been. I mean, you think about outcomes, Carolina's done it. A Final Four, a missing the tournament, a 1 seed but making it to the Sweet 16, got in by the skin of our teeth, a ACC regular season championship, all this stuff. They've done it, a little bit of everything. He goes on to say a 101-45 record, that's a 69.2% winning percentage, has included a surprise run to the national title game in 2022, an infamous run from preseason number 1 to missing the NCAAs altogether in 2023, then a number 1 seed in 2024, followed up by a controversial backdoor inclusion into the 2025 Big Dance. I mean, it's been woo, woo, woo. If this was an airplane, we'd be throwing up from the turbulence. That's my commentary on it. Taking over for Roy Williams was never going to be easy, but Davis has made it harder at some points than it's needed to be. I wonder what he means by that, like almost in a way of like Coach Davis not being able to help himself, or has done things to make it harder on himself. It could be coaching decisions, right? Of like his desire to only hire guys that played for Carolina. It could be kind of stubbornly, I'll just use that word, holding on to previous ways of recruiting and hoping that the Carolina name holds cachet, right? Maybe it's those kind of things that he's alluding to. And that's just me guessing. Goes on to say, Davis has made it harder at some points than it's need to be. And in parentheses, he's also not been helped to maximum potential by some UNC boosters in recent years. There's that, right? To where, yes, maybe Coach Davis himself hasn't been fully leaning into everything that he could do in terms of winning in the NIL era. And I don't mean on-court winning. I mean roster construction winning. But also, it seems like people that could help supply money are choosing not to. And I'm not saying that of everybody. I know there's a lot of people listening to and watching this podcast that have given of their own money. And I say thank you for that. But it does seem like, unlike some other schools of Carolina's ilk, maybe Carolina hasn't always gotten the dollar amounts that people would think they should. Norlander goes on to say, still, there have been bright spots. He's recruited and coached 2 of the most accomplished Tar Heels ever in Armando Bacot and RJ Davis. He ended Mike Krzyzewski's career, both in Duke's final home game and then at the Final Four. Fascinating situation with UNC potentially approaching a crossroads over the next 10 months or so. This is Carolina. Expectations are lofty, and the grade applied has to reflect that. Davis is squarely on the hot seat heading into 2025-26. And again, as I said, grade C+. I can't find much to quibble with here with Norlander. Despite me being a glass half full kind of guy, I am glass half full, but I'm also a realist. And I believe that what he says here is true. For some of those bright spots, like RJ, like Mondo, like ending Coach K's career, both a regular season home game and a Final Four. This is, as he says, going to be a crossroad in these next 10 or so months. One of the things I talked about, I like listening to these guys' podcasts. And one of the things that Gary Parrish asked specific to Carolina and Coach Davis was this: when you're at Carolina, you ought to have a top 5 coach in the sport as your head coach. And he said, basically, so if I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to keep and retain Hubert Davis, what I do is I step back and I say, do I think that the person we have right now is a top 5 coach in this sport, or maybe that he would be in the next couple years? If the answer to that question is yes, awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. But if the answer to that question is no, finish the sentence, right? Ellipsis. You don't even need me to say it. And so I think that what he says here, Norlander, is exactly right. This is Carolina. Expectations are lofty, and so the grade applied has to reflect that. And here's what I take Norlander to mean. If this were another non-Carolina school, let's say this was NC State. Let's say this was Virginia Tech. Let's say this was, you could even go outside the ACC, whatever. What Carolina has done the last 4 years would have been more acceptable, because for a lot of schools, wow, we made the national title game. Wow, we were preseason number 1. Wow, we were a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Would be a stellar, exciting 3 years. But 3 words that Matt Norlander said: this is Carolina. And just doing those kind of things isn't enough. So while I hate it, because I always want to see people succeed, I do agree that this is very much a hot seat season for Coach Davis. And so all of that is why this conversation around who Carolina lands is so much. When I'm talking about continuing to seek out who's going to fill Drake Powell's spot, and people are like, Isaac, you're just going out and looking at people. Yes, because Carolina needs more. What they have, in my opinion, is not enough. And if you want Carolina to be Carolina, they got to get dudes. And so that's why I continue to search for them this offseason and other offseasons. The problem is we literally don't know what to expect from year to year. And I mean that both in terms of Carolina and in terms of the national college basketball landscape. Because of the transfer portal, it's not just you bring back a bunch of guys and try to work in some high school freshmen along with them. It's you maybe bring back a couple guys or maybe nobody, and you're working in probably a couple high school freshmen and a whole bunch of transfers. And you got to stir up that brew and see if you can make it work. And so that it basically coincides with Coach Davis taking over. And it's just a whole new world, right? Like, we don't know what to expect. Would Coach Davis have been more consistent in the pre-transfer portal NIL era? I don't know. But the problem is you are judged on what you do in the era you're in. And so while, sure, I can speculate about who he would have been and what he would have done prior to the portal, that ain't the reality we're living in. And so it's wild and it's maddening, and the inconsistency is frustrating for a lot of people. Now, I will say at the same time, I think everybody, not just Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, other blue bloods are going to have not the same level of consistency they did prior to the portal era, because it's harder when you got to build and rebuild a team every year. That's reality. but Carolina needs more consistency. I think there is more consistency to be had. And come on, again, we're Carolina. There should be guys beating down the doors every year, but money talks and you got to go out and spend it. All of that is true. All of that is true. I firmly believe that. So just thought that was really interesting to hear that from Matt Norlander, what he thought about the Coach Davis hire 4 years removed. Would love to hear what grade you would give Coach Davis, by the way. All right, it's time to get to the weekend whip around. What happened in other Carolina athletics this weekend? We'll talk about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and start wondering like, hey, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's so easy to lose track of it all. Well, good news, that's where Monarch Money comes in. They're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all your finances. And they're not just another budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you actually start building wealth. And also, instead of getting on your phone and having to toggle between a whole bunch of different apps, no. You can use Monarch Money alone to check your finances, to track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. My wife and I always want to make sure that we're on the exact same page when it comes to finances. And thankfully, Monarch Money takes the stress out of that and makes it easier than ever before. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Weekend whip around. Here we go. No baseball this past weekend, but the fellas are back in action midweek and then have their next to last ACC series next weekend, hosting NC State, who lost a couple down in Miami this weekend. Good news there. Softball finally got their ACC tournament seeding. They are the 6th seed. They will play in the first round this week on Wednesday against the 11th seed Notre Dame. Irish, that's at 7:30 Eastern on ACC Network. By the way, Carolina just swept Notre Dame up in South Bend to wrap the regular season, so good sign there. But can they do it 4 in a row? We'll find out. If they win, quarterfinals are Thursday against Virginia Tech, and on and on and on from there. The championship game is Saturday. Women's tennis had the first couple rounds of their NCAA tournament run this weekend, and boy, did things go about as well as you could hope. They swept South Carolina on Friday, and then, they swept VCU on Friday, and then South Carolina on Saturday. Carolina won the doubles point against VCU on Friday, winning at 2 and 3 doubles, 6-1, 6-1. And then very quick work in singles. Thea Rabman won at 3 singles, 6-4, 6-1. Claire Hill won at 6 doubles, 6-1, 6-3. And then Reese Brantmeyer there at number 1 singles, 1, 6-3, 6-3 to clinch it. That meant that after Carolina moved on there to play South Carolina, who had beaten Kansas on Friday, and similarly, pretty easy work against the Gamecocks. Carolina wins the doubles point with 3 and 1, winning 6-3 and 6-4 respectively. We had in the singles then, just again, quick work. Hamilton at the 4. Goose Eggs won 6-love, 6-love. Thea Rabman won again at 3, 6-2, and 6-1. And then Claire Hill on this day clinched it for Carolina at 6, winning 7-5 and 6-3. So what does that mean? Oh, baby. Carolina ain't going to be just playing the Wolfpack in baseball this weekend. They're also on Friday now going to be facing NC State in the Super Regional. That'll be Friday, May 9th, 5 p.m. Eastern. Should be at home there at Tuning Tennis Center. Each of the national seeds in Carolina's region advanced, so high-level tennis teams remaining. Carolina has played NC State twice. They beat them at home, a tight one in the regular season 4-3, but then beat them in the ACC semifinal pretty soundly 4-1. Remember, a couple of years ago, NC State upset then undefeated Carolina in the ACC tournament. I think that was the same year that Carolina finally broke through and won the national championship. So anyway, there is that. As a reminder, men's tennis is already done. Lacrosse, both selection shows were on Sunday, women's and men's. As expected, the women are the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They get a bye in the first round. And the beauty of being number 1 overall is that Boston College and Northwestern, it's those 3 teams and then everybody else. they have to play each other on the bottom half of the bracket eventually before one of them would get to Carolina, and the Tar Heels don't have to deal with that. Carolina's first matchup will be on Sunday, on Mother's Day, by the way, folks. If you're not ready for that, they will play the winner of Navy and Clemson. They're at Dorrance Field, noon on ESPN+. That's the Sweet 16. Should they win, the quarterfinal would be May 15th, also at Dorrance on ESPNU. As for the men's team, they are... by the way, they lost, unfortunately, to Duke in the ACC tournament semifinal on Friday. Bummer there, but they are the number 8 overall seed in the men's lacrosse NCAA tournament. They will host Richmond on Saturday in the opening round, and if they win, it would likely be number 1 Cornell next. Women's golf starts their regional today in Norman, Oklahoma. Men's golf still about a week away from getting going, and that's good stuff there. So lots going on, more postseason-y or very near postseason action. Lots of Carolina teams being very good. This is what the Tar Heels do, and that's why it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Thanks for kicking off the brand new week with us here on Locked On Tar Heels. If you've not subscribed to the show, do it right now on both YouTube and audio platforms so you don't miss a second all summer long. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to see you there. Link in the show notes. Same is true for the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. If you want to go next level with the show, that's the place for you. We'd love to see you there. Again, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again to you tomorrow, but until then, peace.